Number 6. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 3 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. wastes no time in picking up where the last season left off. The final scene last season left us with a cliffhanger of what became of Jemma Simmons after she was enveloped by the strange monolith. We pick up the action in real time as Fitz has been scouring all corners of the Earth looking for clues to her whereabouts. Meanwhile, Coulson, with his new robotic left hand in play, comes up against a new Black Ops unit called the ATCU, who are trying to find the newly powered Inhumans that have been popping up at an incredible rate. Skye, now known as Daisy, leads the team in trying to find these Inhumans and recruit them before the ATCU finds them first for their own nefarious purposes. You can see how Marvel are trying to maneuver the Inhumans to be their X-Men substitute. Fox, of course, still has the rights to the X-Men. May has left the team and is looking after her elderly father when Hunter recruits her to go after the team's perennial nemesis, Grant Ward. Hunter wants revenge against Ward for torturing and nearly killing Bobby at the end of last season. Bobby is taken to lab work as she rehabs her knee and tries to pick up the slack for the missing Jemma and otherwise occupied Fitz. Ward is taken to reassemble Hydra with himself in command. His first act is to find the late Baron Strucker's son. You might remember Strucker was senselessly slaughtered by Ultron in Age of Ultron. Warner Strucker, in order to get a hold of the Strucker finances. Eventually, Ward strikes an alliance with Gideon Malik, played by Powers Booth, who was once on the World Council. It's true, he was in Avengers. I have to love the TV division's attention to detail, if nothing else. Booth, of course, was Hydra back then, when Hydra was working from within S.H.I.E.L.D. Coulson comes face to face with the head of the ATCU, Rosalind Price, played by Constance Zimmer. She makes a fine foil for Coulson, and the two have some palpable chemistry. Their cat-and-mouse game of, can I trust you? Yeah, no, maybe, is all very old-school spy romance. The team eventually locate and rescue Simmons, and it's fair to say one of the highlights of the season was the episode focused on her alone on the desert planet. While there, she meets up with a hunky astronaut named Will, who's been stranded there for 14 years. Will keeps her safe from a fabled Hydra beast that devours any who are ritualistically sent to the planet as a sacrifice. After she returns to Earth, she and Fitz set out to find a way to open another portal to bring him safely back. The Fitz Simmons pairing gets its share of the spotlight this season, and after 3 full seasons, they finally get together as a couple. Arrow's showrunners should take notes as to how to give a potential relationship between 2 characters the proper build-up without resorting to cheap emotional contrivances to keep them apart. But I digress. The big heavy of the early part of the season is Lash, Inhuman Exterminator. As it turns out, he also happens to be May's ex, Andrew Garner, who was exposed to the Terrigen Mist. It's a very clever twist, but in typical AOS fashion, Lash makes limited appearances until he eventually turns good and sacrifices his life for our heroes. Which is more or less what happened to Zebo and Reyna last season. In a move that I honestly found shocking, Ward assassinates Rosalind as vengeance for Kara being killed last season. This moves the Ward-Coulson rivalry to another level, causing a darker, more determined change in Coulson. Malik sends Ward to the desert planet after the Hydra creature known as Hive because he assimilates the memories of the host bodies he inhabits. Coulson follows and has a showdown with Ward, ultimately killing him with his prosthetic hand. I didn't really care for them taking Phil down such a dark road. What would his hero Cap say? But when Hive takes over Ward's corpse and comes to Earth, Coulson blames himself for acting out of revenge. Lincoln returns after being on the run for much of the season's first half. Eventually he becomes an agent in training. Coulson is initially hesitant that Lincoln has what it takes to follow orders. I enjoyed Lincoln being the team hothead, as it were, though it seems somewhat at odds with his previous depiction last season. Eventually, Bobby and Hunter are written out of the show after a mission in Russia goes wrong. The US disavows them and they choose to leave the team voluntarily. Of course, the original plan was to have them spin off into their own series titled Marvel's Most Wanted. But Network Brass decided to pass on the pilot, shelving the series. It really shouldn't be too difficult to find a way to have them brought back into the series at some point. They should at least try, since Hunter and Bobby are a great part of the show's cast. Lots of familiar faces return this year, such as President Ellis from Iron Man 3, General Talbot, Dr. Whitehall in a flashback, the Absorbing Man, Peter McNichol as the Asgardian Professor Randolph, and Titus Welliver as Agent Blake from Season 1, who's now on the opposite side of Coulson. But his fate is left as something of a cliffhanger. In the final quarter of the season, Daisy leads the much-awaited Secret Warriors, a team of Inhumans consisting of Joey, who can melt metal, Yo-Yo, who can speed back and forth in the span of a heartbeat, and Lincoln. Hive turns on Malik, killing his daughter. In revenge, Malik gives up intel on Hydra, leading to their final defeat at the hands of Talbot's forces. Which feels kinda underwhelming given the overall reach Hydra has had over the MCU at large. But in fairness, Hydra had been severely crippled at this point, and this was more the sloppy leftovers of Hydra than the main course. Hive has the power to sway Inhumans to his side, and that becomes his main threat to the team. He gathers Inhumans to his cause, including an Aussie named James, who has the powers of the X-Men's Gambit. He's a fun character who thankfully lives to return next season. Hive eventually sways Daisy to his side and sets her against the team. She kills Malik and threatens to kill Fitz and Mac. The team turns to Dr. Radcliffe for a cure. He too is an amusing character that I'm glad to say survives the season. Unfortunately, Hive captures him, forcing him to create a Magneto-like plan to turn all humans into Inhumans by draining Daisy's blood, and he succeeds in making several Inhuman primitives. Daisy is cured and saved by Lash before his death at the hands of the swayed James, but this leaves Daisy with intense withdrawal such that she returns to Hive asking to be taken back. When Hive can't accommodate her, a battle ensues. I've always considered Chloe to be one of the stronger actresses on TV these days, and she really does a great job with the role here. We finally get to see Hive's actual kisser in a hugely satisfying, if all too brief, confrontation scene between he and Coulson. Much like Arrow had the grave as the ongoing mystery this season, AOS has a vision given to Daisy by another Inhuman of someone dying aboard a spaceship, the clue being it's someone carrying a gold cross necklace. And I thought it was a very successful construct, as you see the cross being unknowingly passed from member to member. Lincoln is the unfortunate one, however, as he knowingly takes the cross from Daisy and boards the ship carrying Hive and his pestilence into space. Captain Rogers would be proud. I thought it was a pretty cool ending to have Hive no longer scheming but accepting his fate beside the injured Lincoln. I liked Ward, but it was getting pretty tough to keep him in the show as an ongoing villain. The last few minutes of the season flashes us forward 6 months where Daisy is apparently a vigilante of sorts now known as Quake. And she's on the run from Coulson and Mac. At this point, Coulson is no longer director of S.H.I.E.L.D., begging the question, who is? Well, May seems the obvious answer, but I prefer her in the field. And currently, without Bobby, Daisy, and Hunter, Mac's the only real combatant on the team. So I don't think it's May. It's probably not Fury again, since they can't really afford Samuel L. Jackson on a weekly basis. I'm guessing, or more accurately hoping, it's Maria Hill. She would make the most sense, and she was noticeably absent from Civil War. The season ender was largely satisfying, and I think I said last season, AOS's biggest problem seems to be it's boiling the pot a bit too long before the home run stretch kicks the show into overdrive. In fairness, though, on the rewatch, the season wasn't quite as bland as I thought the first time around. The problem may be with the increasing amount of superhero fare available on a weekly basis, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. comes across as the sad sister. It's not as flashy when compared to the bona fide comic character shows such as Flash and Supergirl. No one really talks about, hey, did you see AOS this week? And it's a shame it tends to get choked out like that, because binge-watching the show really is the best way to appreciate it. I'm giving Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 3 4 stars out of 5. This is Johnnie Torch reminding you once again, keep the flame burning brightly, and I'll be with you again real soon.